Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's BBQ Joints, and in this episode, I get a chance to talk to Andy Wang. He's a food writer. You might know him from most recently Food and Wine magazine, is where he has a lot of his articles, and they're exceptional. And I've been meaning to talk to him for a long time. This interview is more of a chat. We talk about meat specifically and barbecue too. We talk about his past. He grew up in Texas. He moved to New York. We talk about his time in New York and the meat scene and the barbecue scene while he was there. And then 10 years ago, he moved to Los Angeles. And we talk about the barbecue and meat scene that existed then and how it's changed so much with these pop-ups with Moo's Craft Barbecue and Trudy's Underground Barbecue, and how those are slowly transforming into possible brick and mortar locations. How there's a lot of chefs that are amazing chefs out here, but they'll have one or two incredible meat dishes which stand out. So we talk about those. We talk about 40 to 50 different restaurants all over the board, even a great place up north of Los Angeles that I don't want to spoil, but it just sounds spectacular. And I know as soon as you hear the interview portion of that, you'll want to go visit them when you're visiting Los Angeles, or if you live in Los Angeles or in the Santa Barbara area. But again, I can't thank Andy enough for taking the time. If you're liking these, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on these. I'll be doing at least 2 per week. I also have a podcast version of this, as well as additional interviews on the podcast. And that's available if you go to Kevin's BBQ Joints. If you search that on any of your podcast networks, you can find it. I also have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com with tons more content, tons of cool photos, interesting stuff on barbecue joints and butcher shops, etc. But enjoy this. Good morning, Andy. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Good morning.
How's your good morning? Thank you so much. How's your day going so far?
Not bad. I went to a very, very late night pumpkin patch in Calabasas last night with a bunch of families and apparently a bunch of celebrity families, and there were pumpkins like carved to like look like Kanye and Kim and Tom Brady and Frank Sinatra. So like it was a kids party that was really an adult party. So yeah, we're all feeling it a little bit this morning.
I saw that. So that was a private event. That wasn't something people can publicly get.
It's actually opening to the public tonight. So last night they just had a preview for whatever friends and family and media. So yeah, but it is legitimately, you can buy tickets, and you can go there, I think, like through November, the first week of November.
Oh wow, cool. Well, I'll ask you for a link later on, and I'll put it in this because I think people would love to go to that. I would love to go. I live in Woodland
Yeah,
Hills.
yeah.
So.
I mean, it was extremely insane. I mean, the kids were amped, but like the adults were posing for more photos and everything. So
And people do love to take photos these days. So
yeah, the second you walked in, they're like, "There's a lot of Instagram opportunities." I'm like, "Oh, you're talking to the grown-ups, not the children." I get it.
Exactly. That's hilarious. Isn't that funny too? Like I had seen something where someone was at a restaurant and I'd overheard this, and then I saw this also on Twitter where someone said like, here are our most Instagrammable items on a menu, and it's just kind of funny how things have shifted and kind of changed.
Yeah, there's something I think in New York that just opened called Pastagram, where legitimately that's the name of the restaurant. So yes,
That's
shift.
hilarious. Do they have like the melted cheese where they like pour it?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's just like every possibility. I mean, rainbow pasta, maybe, who knows?
Oh yeah, sure. The more colorful, the better. Well, I wanted to know your background. Are you from Los Angeles?
I'm not from Los Angeles, and I mean, this will be good, segueing into discussion of meat. I spent the first 20 years of my life in Texas. I grew up in a small town in North Texas. I ended up going to school at UT Austin.
I didn't know this. Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so I grew up like obviously like eating Tex-Mex and barbecue, and so that was my early education into food without me even realizing it. And then I lived all over America, but for about 15 years of my life, 15 plus, I was in New York City, working as a journalist for different magazines and newspapers. No real linear path to writing about food, but then I started writing about it a lot, and then 5 years ago, I moved to LA, mainly just because a lot of friends from New York can move to LA in search of whatever, and easier life, more space. It's like better weather, every cliche. But you know what? You come here and you realize every cliche is true, and this is why people live here,
There's only a couple things that are not great about Los Angeles, and of course, that's the traffic. And
Yeah.
there are some days that are extremely hot, but there's days that are extremely hot everywhere across the country.
Yeah. And and the one other thing that was weird about LA at first is just like how early people ate and like how early things closed.
True.
But I got used to that because I realized what all my New York friends were saying to me is that you would literally get 20 hours back in your week of time to yourself Because if you really think about it, the difference between going to dinner at 6 o'clock and going to dinner at 9:30, and then going somewhere after dinner, it's like it in a way is kind of life changing. So I have a lot of friends who moved to LA. They seem busier than ever, but in reality, they have more time. Like you could have never reached them before, and now they'll call you and they're like walking their dog, or they're running, or they're watching Netflix or whatever.
That's so
So
funny. So the quality of life is better out here.
yes,
Interesting. So, sadly, this is probably going to be an advertisement for people that want to move here now. So it's gonna be even more crowded than it is right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean I know a lot of LA people are like, please don't let anybody else move here, but it's like there's room here still.
Portland people feel that way. Seattle people feel that way. Every like people in Colorado don't want people from LA coming out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but then the flip side of it, it's like whether they want to admit it or not. And I think in most cases they do want to admit it because whatever, like Eater loves Major Domo. People love Adam Perry Lang. LA loves the fact that a lot of these New York people have decided to
oh,
come here.
without a doubt. Yeah, yeah, and they help fuel the restaurant scene. I think it's important that we have people because a lot of times people would just only come to Las Vegas, but it seems like more and more they are coming all the way to Los Angeles. And
Yeah, and in Las Vegas, in Las Vegas, like they do cool things, but they're like these big corporate things. And in LA, like David Chang, for example, he opened up a restaurant where the menu is 100% designed for LA, and he hasn't served this stuff before.
hmm that's what's
In
really cool about
Vegas,
it.
whether you're John George or whoever, you go there and you realize, oh, these are the things that I'm known for. This is what I'm going to do. Or this is Vegas, and I'm just going to open a steakhouse.
Yeah.
And power to them. Those restaurants are great. But in LA, it's sort of like you just you really get to start over and create some things.
That's true. That is true. Las Vegas is kind of like a caricature of the person or what people are expecting to when they come. But Los Angeles, yeah, you can create yourself, and a lot of people do come to Los Angeles from other cities to reinvent themselves personally. So that kind of it makes sense that that would happen in the restaurant scene.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's one of the sort of the great things about it. And then yeah, and then so I've lived in LA for the last 5 years. I'm mainly writing about food now just because food is the most exciting thing in LA. Like it's what all the cultural momentum is about.
I agree.
And a little bit for background, like I used to be the real estate and travel editor at the New York Post, and real estate and travel turned really into food because food and nightlife because those were the most exciting things. So I've been coming to LA for more than 10 years. And if you think about say the year or think about just literally 10 years ago, right? 2008 was the year that Jelena opened. It's the year that Roy Choi started selling tacos out of his Kogi truck. It's the year that Animal opened. It's the year that Jose Andres, and the SLS Hotel opened on the edge of Beverly Hills. And if you think about the fact, of course, there were great restaurants in LA before that, but think about just those four things I've mentioned
Wow.
and how many things they've spawned and influenced since then, and how many chefs came out of those kitchens, and how many empires have been built, not even necessarily by the original guys.
That's so interesting. I didn't think about it as 2008, but
Yeah,
that is
but that transformation, it's like that to me. Like, look, there's been many waves of this wonderful LA food, but like that to me, like started this thing that we have now, where every neighborhood in LA like has those two or three good neighborhood restaurants that are
hmm
influenced by certain things, either directly or just sort of like indirectly through osmosis or whatever. But yeah, it's so yeah. I think I'm here covering food in LA, for Food and Wine and other places because in the last 10 years, everything has changed. And you've probably noticed this year, the pace of openings
Oh
is
gosh.
such that like it is impossible to keep up with no matter how hard you try.
And there's still ones on the horizon, and I believe that's one of your recent articles talks about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's new one. I mean, and there's new like high profile ones. I mean, Maylin, who won Top Chef, is opening Nightshade in like a month, and like in any other year, that may be like the most important restaurant that opens in LA for 6 months. But like now it's one of 10, and that's kind of great.
It is great. It does feel like it is the best time to be in Los Angeles for food. It does feel that way, and
Yeah.
it feels like there's a lot of new things on the horizon too that we don't probably even know about that are just kind of percolating. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
And I feel like LA goes, LA comes out for these things, right? I mean, like, I wrote this piece recently where I mentioned, oh, hey, like the Nomad and Major Domo and Curtis Stone's Mod reopening, that all happened within, I think, 3 days,
Uh-huh.
right? And there was a week where APL and Bavel and Petit Trois in the Valley all happened in the same week. And there was literally a weekend recently. It was the weekend you probably saw this. Dave Grohl was like
Yeah.
serving pulled pork in a Valley parking lot. and Palisades Village opened with a great burger place from the Blue Ribbon guys, and Christina Tosti opened Milk Bar. And the thing that was astounding to me, so like people were waiting an hour at all of these things in different parts of the city. Like food is what made everybody wake up that day, you know?
And it didn't seem like Los Angeles was a place to wait in line for things. It seems like people there's so many things that can grasp people's attention. They're so ADD, but it seems like it's happening now. It seems, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not, necessarily down with all this waiting in line, but at the same time, like people are waiting in line for valid things. I mean, like Moo's Craft Barbecue, which is like serving some of the best barbecue in LA, like in the history of LA. Like they pop up at Smorgasburg, and it's like a Franklin barbecue level line.
3 hours.
People are there at like 9:30 in the morning and hasn't even opened, and then you go to the line at noon. How long have you been in this line? Oh, it's been 2 hours, and they're still not near the front of the line. You know,
the line was 70 people deep within 10 minutes.
Yeah, think about Howling Rays every single day, basically. You know, like if you get there and it's a 30-minute wait, you're super lucky. You know?
Yeah, I always tell people just check their Twitter. Like even if you tweet them, they'll tweet you back within a couple minutes. But it's incredible. People don't realize people will wait for a sandwich for 2 hours, 3 hours in Los Angeles, and it hasn't stopped for Howling Rays at all.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to, and they've even extended their hours, and it's still crazy.
Yeah, no, and I mean they're going to open a bigger restaurant, and that will probably help them. But the thing that too, it's like this has been going on for a while, and people just sort of forget it because things happen so quickly. Like, there's been times where like there's been parking lots, in parking lots where like Kogi served more than 1,000 people in one night, and then they just figured it out. That's happened multiple times in the history of Roy Choi in many different neighborhoods.
And do people realize? I believe, I feel, and maybe this isn't true. I think he started the food truck movement.
100%.
Okay. Because that's what I always feel, and I also always tell people. But then I'd like to talk to someone like you that maybe knows the history a little better, because I feel like it was, obviously it was taco trucks and things like that. But after his, then that boomed, and a lot of them have fallen the wayside, but there still are a lot of food.
Yeah, no, and I was talking to a couple other food writers about this recently, and they were pointing out, and like this is again like no shade to the other places, like whatever, there are places like Howling Rays, obviously, and Squirrel that like. Very much changed the game in LA, but like what Roy Choi did was he essentially changed the way that food was served like all over the country.
All over the country, yeah. I know. And people, I don't know if people realize that. I don't think people from other states realize. And maybe they will now, but I think that's fantastic. And then his other restaurants, a lot of people too don't even know that those other restaurants are attached to him.
Yeah. No, and he's in the middle of like creating a huge thing in Las Vegas. Yeah. So like, and it's very much inspired by his Korean roots and Koreatown in LA. So it's like he knows the thing that he wants to do and wants to continue, so he's building it right now.
Exactly. And his Anthony Bourdain episode is one of my favorites, hands down. It's so good.
Great.
Yeah. So now, were you eating, like when you were in Texas, were you eating at, I guess it was so long ago, you were like Franklin hadn't popped up, like the new wave of barbecue hadn't happened.
I mean, I've gone back and like eaten at the new wave stuff, and if I remember correctly, like Cruz was there obviously, like when when I was living there, and so I was always eating good meat. But honestly, Cruz and Franklin, like I think to me, like are still the standards. But honestly, growing up, like and living in different parts of Texas, I don't remember the names of most of these places, and probably most of them don't even exist. But there were all-you-can-eat barbecue places, right?
Yeah.
That would just be like whatever, 8 minutes from your house, and you go there and you pay $7.99. And it's only after I left Texas that I realized, wow, those places were amazing compared to like what's everywhere else, And
then even in New York, when you were in New York, were things changing on the meat and barbecue side? Was that?
They were changing a little bit. I mean, like, Adam Perry Lang was, serving chili out of a street cart in Midtown Manhattan that I like very much. He had a barbecue restaurant where, he was doing a lot of pulled pork.
Was that Daisy Mays?
Daisy Mays, yeah, and it was good. But I think Adam will admit that, like, his meat's a lot better now.
Well, it takes time, and he's learned a lot, and he's such a student of the craft, yeah.
And I like Daisy Mays. I mean, like, when I worked at the New York Post, there were multiple dinners where we would go there and basically like do the whole pig thing. And I remembered it being like $300 or something. And this was back in the day where you had expense accounts. It's like, all right, whatever, there's 10 people here. We can just expense this.
That's nice.
But the point is so I liked it very much then. And I liked his chili then, but it's just like his food is a lot better now, but you're right. It's just time,
And you said Danny Meyer, he had what, Blue
Smoke?
Yeah.
But and the funny thing is, like, Blue Smoke was a good restaurant, but I remember there, like talking to the Village Voice food critic at the time, Robert Sietsema, who's now at Eater, where, there are multiple people who just basically went in the restaurant and tried to figure out like where they smelled smoke, because like in New York, you're just limited by the ways that you could do stuff. So that's another one of those things where Danny Meyer's, the greatest restaurateur in the history of New York.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say that like it's great barbecue compared to what I've eaten before, but it was good barbecue at the time. And then Fete Sao happened in
Oh yeah,
Brooklyn.
that kind of changed things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that became a thing where like, okay, this is not Texas style barbecue either, but this is very close to the experience that
Hmm.
I'm craving.
With the New York bent, I feel like it had that kind of that backbone. It had like even Asian influences, and it was kind of
Yeah.
had any of the newer ones. Was Hill Country open before you moved?
Yeah, Hill Country was there, and I thought Hill Country was pretty good, but
Yeah,
obviously, like Hill Country's like getting sausages from Lockhart,
yeah.
so some of it was like they took away the degree of difficulty. But yeah, I thought their brisket and their sides were
Hmm.
good, and then for a while there was
Was Mighty Quinn's? Was that?
Mighty Quinn's was there, and that dinosaur beef rib was good.
Yeah.
I never made it to hometown. So I guess that happened right as I was leaving, or right after I was leaving.
So when you got to Los Angeles, then because what was here when you got to Los Angeles? Was it just the staples like Bloodso?
Yeah, I mean, I ate at Blitzo's like early on, and I liked it, like both in their original in Compton and
The La Brea one.
yeah, and on La Brea, and yeah, it was good. That was basically it. It wasn't something, Texas barbecue wasn't something that I really searched for. I mean, it's a funny thing, like my wife is not from Texas. My wife loves to eat, in many ways, like she's got a more developed, advanced. She wrote about food long before I did, but
Oh,
she
okay.
never understood this Texas barbecue thing because it's just like she had never had a good version of it. So the first time that like she experienced it, and again, like, and this is why Aaron Franklin is such a god. Like, it was a pop up at Animal. He obviously cannot simulate like whatever the wind and the weather and all the things that he has in Texas. But my wife ate that, took one bite, and was just like, "Oh, I get it now. Like, this is what you were eating when you grew up. This is really good, and you should want to eat that all the time."
When was this pop up at Animal? I totally missed this.
This was a couple, maybe 3 years ago. It
Oh,
was Adam Perry Lang, Roy Choi. It was they were doing a collaboration like after the Chef movie came out, and I
okay.
think Roy and John and Vinny were like selling Roy's Cuban sandwiches outside,
Oh, cool.
and it was just this cool thing, where just like Aaron Franklin did beef, and Adam Perry Lang did pulled pork, and John and Vinny did sides. So it was just really like all these things aligning. And again, everything was great, but the thing that it made me realize at the time is, wow, like Aaron Franklin, even under these weird circumstances where he's not cooking the way that he would normally cook, like it's just better than anything that's ever been in LA because he just might be the best at this.
And he's not using his offset. Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's a
I
certain
mean, yeah, I mean,
mastery.
I don't know what he brought to
Yeah,
LA.
exactly. But he has a mastery already, like of
Yeah,
the craft.
yeah, but it's sort of like this guy from the Bay Area who mainly does pop ups in Oakland, Matt Horn. He came to LA for the first time and it was super impressive because, as other people pointed out, I think Robert Jacob Lerma Instagrammed and pointed this out. It's like Matt showed up to LA. He cooked in the kitchen he'd never used before, with equipment that essentially I think he borrowed.
Yeah, he
And
did.
you know what? This is really good. That just means that you got it.
And he's great, and he's just killing it up there too. That's
I
that's
know. I mean, it's just all these intangibles. You can't explain why it's this good, but it just is.
And isn't it interesting? It just feels like there's some sort of momentum. It's almost getting there in Los Angeles, but it feels like all of a sudden all these pop-ups and underground. But when did you catch wind to the whole underground scene? And
So the funny thing is, it's like, and these are how these things happen, right? Like I was playing poker with some friends. One of my friends mentioned that he was friends with this guy Bert Bachmann, and he started like and this is more than a year ago, like way more than a year ago. Like so when Bert was early on this, and he basically texted Bert, like CC'd me on the text and basically said, "Hey, my friend Andy would like some meat. Can you get him some brisket this weekend?" And Bert, like at this point, like he has no idea who I am or whatever. There's no real context, and he's just like, "Yeah, this is really starting to feel like selling drugs."
that's
So,
amazing.
so I went and got some brisket and I ate it, and then I suddenly like have a moment like, "Whoa, this guy's doing this in his backyard, and this is like there's a seriousness of purpose, and the meat is very good, and." This could just be like a very interesting hobby, or he could take it somewhere else. And obviously, he's taking it somewhere else now.
Yeah, but it was to me it was super exciting because I'd worked in Texas a little ways back for a year, and I fell in love with Texas barbecue, but I really hadn't had much of it out here. And then when I was able to kind of reach out and kind of catch his interest via DM, it was a whole exciting like like goose chase, trying to find where he was, trying to find out what he was doing, and then
Yeah.
I think that part was really exciting, and then finding out that it was quality stuff.
Yeah, no, it's quality, and but like so that's what's so interesting about what he's doing. For better or worse, it's like it truly was underground. There's this mystique. You didn't understand where this guy came from, and then you started hearing his story. About like what his background is, and where his parents came from, and everything. It's like this amazing like migrant kitchen type story. But now he's about to like open up a restaurant with this huge nightlife group. And this is the type of thing where, like, again, for better or worse, there are probably going to be pictures of whatever the Kardashians or like LeBron eating his barbecue, and it becomes the exact opposite of Trudy's Underground Barbecue. But like, whatever, barbecue should be for everybody,
It should be for everybody, and it should be, and that's also what makes it difficult with these underground spots is that I want it more than just on a Saturday
Yeah,
or just a day. I want to have it at like 3 or 4 times a week or any.
yeah. I mean, Moose is obviously thinking about going brick and mortar because the demand's there. It's
Oh,
just a
it's
matter
huge.
of like whether they want to like change their lives and do this because I'm sure other people have told them the restaurant business isn't easy. I mean, it's going to be easier for them because they have this huge built-in audience,
But
but
again,
yeah,
it's a lot of hours, and they have two
yeah,
kids, and it's Michelle and Andrew, they're killing it. But it's also
yeah,
it is a big deal. It's a big change, and a lot of people say like, "Hey, open up a restaurant," but it's not just you can't just do it. It's not
yeah. No,
easy.
and I have mad respect for people who even before they've started like start thinking about life-work balance, because
Hmm.
it's like, look, this is 2018. We don't have to get into all these things right now, but there's a lot of people that are just thinking, you know what? Taking time for myself and just like realizing that it doesn't have to be about pleasing everybody else. It's fine.
Hmm. We're living in an interesting time, and it's a little bit nuts. So it's to actually have that balance and to look at it and to kind of plan it, put it almost into your business plan is important,
Yeah.
which is almost impossible. So what other places are you living? What are you like? What's so Trudy's popped up, and then Moo's popped up, and then have you been like, and then Major Domo opened around that same time, like Meatwise, and then APL, like it's
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about LA right now is that like there's so much good meat because all these chefs like communicate and they know how to, and they know where to get things. So, like Flannery beef, the California Holsteins, like that extremely marbled, like more mature California
Mhm.
beef. That's the ribeye at Major Domo, but that's also, like a tiny steak that you get at Shibumi. And I just got an email like whatever Alexander Steakhouse in Pasadena,
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
yeah, is using Flannery beef and like and it's not being served at all of these restaurants right now, but like in the past, like whatever, you name it, like Felix, Bestia, whatever, they've all served this beef. Oh, there was that I just went and ate the 96-ounce like smoked prime rib
Where is
at
this?
Bourbon Steak in Glendale, and I mean that was amazing, and that's Flannery beef too. So
Okay, I gotta go.
that's kind of the thing. Yeah, it's not even that expensive for 96 ounces. I think it's like $250, and it comes with sides. And look, that feeds 6 people. So
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
steakhouse, that is not expensive.
That is just awesome. I didn't. Is
Yeah.
what do you know what Chispaca is using? Do you know what are they?
You know what? I think that they also are using some Flannery beef. Yeah, they had a Flannery beef dinner. I mean, I don't know if they're obviously not just using that because they source lots of different things. But yeah, I think their bistecca fiorentina might be Flannery beef.
I
I
think you
mean, we
might
have
be right. I just it
yeah, we
sounds
should check on
familiar.
that. But I know that they've had a Flannery dinner before that I've been to. So
And would you recommend? I actually haven't been there. I haven't been to Chispaca. Would you recommend them?
yeah, I mean, I would recommend Key Bucket like 100%.
Chispaca. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, no, whatever. You don't need to edit this. I
I'm
didn't
not
know
gonna
what
edit.
that.
I'm just correcting.
No, but I didn't even know what it was called. Like when I first moved here, I think I mispronounced it for the first 6 months or whatever. But yeah, I'd recommend that. But like even just the places that are just doing their own doing their things and sourcing themselves, like the bar at Gwen is a very good place to eat a
Hmm.
steak.
And they have their own butchery. Like
Yeah. I mean,
that's
Hi Ho Cheeseburger is using New Zealand Wagyu, and a lot of people, including me, think that it's like the best cheeseburger in LA right now.
it's so
So
good in Santa Monica, right? That's
yeah,
over. Other specific places meat wise that you know are opening up, or is it more just restaurants that you know are opening up?
I mean, it's more restaurants that are opening up, but the thing is like they're all like meat centric. Like I went, to the book party last year for Gorilla Tacos, and the thing that Wes was talking about, it's like look at my al pastor here, inside the kitchen, and it's just like I feel like that's the thing. Like it's the great thing in LA is that like unless you're a restaurant like APL and obviously like you've got the dry aging room with whatever like 7,000 plus pounds of meat, you don't really need to self-identify as anything besides a
That's true.
restaurant in LA, you know? But it just turns out that like there's great meat in like so many of these places right now.
And
So
so maybe that's kind of like the crux of this is that it's in Los Angeles. It's not going to be a specific style or specific, even borrowing from a certain region. It's still going to have a lot of other influences, and it might be that they do a bunch of other things, and then their meat is spectacular too.
yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing about LA. It's like the people I think, diners like don't really care about like whatever boundaries or strict definitions and the chefs just sort of like celebrate that and the chefs just evolve. So throughout their careers, a chef like Joseph Centeno who like used to like do like all this really meat heavy stuff at Lazy Ox, he's evolved where he just like really likes to cook vegetables, but at the same time a guy like that really knows how to make a burger or a katsu sandwich at the same time. So
So for tacos, if you're getting recommendations, because this will hopefully air within a week, where would you recommend if someone coming into town for tacos? Where would you tell them to go?
I mean, I'm sure you've had like 20 people tell you this, like everybody in LA, but it's like, yeah, go to Leo's and eat Al
Hmm.
Pastor, you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
it's killer.
It's just such an LA experience, just like watching them, and just like looking around at like all the people, that are there. I mean, and then obviously like Gorilla Tacos for the quote unquote like modern spin. I mean, they're crushing it. And then not meat centric at all, but a lot of people, including me, probably think that if we're going to eat one thing over and over again in LA, it might be that shrimp taco at Marisco Jalisco.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. That's true. Well, then for burger, you said hi ho. Is there any other
I
burger
mean,
spot?
Hi Ho is great. I mean, obviously the ERB one is a very good hamburger, but I'm just trying to think. It's like I eat so many good hamburgers that there's a burger at Mr. O's that just opened in Studio City
Oh
that
wow.
I think is really good. And again, like Mr. O's, the chef Mario Alberto worked with Joseph at Lazy Ox and has since like opened a lot of important restaurants, including Tallulah's with Jeremy Fox. Of course, that guy can cook meat really well. And in fact, maybe like the ultimate meat dish in LA right now is this pork can dish he has, which is a Puerto Rican pork chop with all the fat attached. So it's essentially a porchetta cut,
Oh,
you know, like just with like all these pickled vegetables on top of it. I mean, that thing, and I hate using this word, but I don't even know how to like this. This is an epic piece of pork, that's meant for sharing, at this great restaurant that like defies description because, it's a Mexican chef, doing a Puerto Rican dish, but he also has shrimp bolognese and some of the best vegetables and like all this seafood with Asian influences. And, you talk to these people and it's like, it's interesting that like a Mexican guy doing whatever Asian food and Puerto Rican food and all this is like what people think of like as their neighborhood American restaurant. But you talk to the chefs and the owners, and they're like, "Well, there's another word for it. It's not American. It's modern Angelino, right?" And I'm
oh,
like,
it's
"Yeah, that's it. You
uh-huh.
know?
That is it. That is it. So for steak wise, is there other places? We've touched on a bunch of different places, but say you're going or steak or prime rib. Are there any specific like diehard like old school places that you love to go to?
I mean, I'd still say that like I like the places. I'm just like more partial to the classics that I've just been eating for a long time. So shout out to Peter Luger in New York. R.I.P. Prime Meats in Brooklyn. That for years was my favorite steakhouse. Those guys, the Franks, are changing it into something else. I get it, the neighborhood's changing, but it's like I just really have so many memories of like going to Prime Meats at whatever 11:30 on a weeknight and just like being able to like get a big shareable steak.
Ah, you can't do that. It's sad that you can't do that here in Los Angeles. That's so sad.
But that's the thing, right? Like in LA, like I was saying, you know, if I'm ordering steak by myself, I like eating the steak at Shibumi. Like if I'm eating large format steak, the steak, and this is fresh on my mind just because I ate it last week. I mean, the Flannery ribeye at Major Domo has like the steak's amazing, and it's got these perfect French fries with it. So
Are there any tips for going there? Is it a long way? Do you go to the bar if you're by yourself or with two people? Are
you
there
can
any?
go to the bar by yourself, and here's the thing, right? And David Chang has even said this, like he told me in something that I was writing that he loves the fact that like there are solo diners that let's go to the bar. You walk in, you sit at the bar, and it becomes like this almost paid for type thing where you'll see a guy and he's got a whole fish and he's like sharing it with the
Oh, that's
strangers
so
next
cool.
to them, and then everybody starts sharing food and it becomes a party that way.
That's
And
killer.
then, Yeah, and then the other way to go to Major Demo is like, yeah, like, go on Resi, make a reservation. Obviously, you have to make it sometimes like weeks in advance, but sometimes a lot of the time on Resi, you can just like reserve the whole plate short rib, go with whatever, like four more people, and then just go in the one that's inspired by APL.
Feed four, you think?
I mean, it'll feed 6 to 8, and I always like joke that like I mean every time I go to Major Domo, I literally like see a two top or four top getting it after they've eaten something else because it just seems like that's a celebratory place, and people want to try it. And in fact, like the last time I went, I was at a four top with a couple friends who had never gone, and we got the ribeye, and we also got the pork Sam's. So that's already two large format things.
Yeah.
Things. And literally, one of the women at my table keeps looking over at the next table, the short, like, why didn't we get that too?
That's awesome. See,
So just
you got to make another visit.
yeah,
So for APL, could you tell some people about APL? Because a lot of people, it still might not be on their radar.
yeah. Well, I mean, APL is very much just like a good Minna Tavern style brasserie slash steakhouse at night. Just with insane dry aged beef. You can get a version of Adam short rib. That's the version that like people have eaten at like the Jimmy Kimmel
Mm-hmm. The pop up, yeah.
pop-ups. And now the other cool thing is that at lunch, every once in a while he's doing barbecue pop-ups just like out of his little window, but every day he's selling some kind of hot dog or some kind of barbecue style sandwich.
Is that the hole in the wall?
Yeah, at the hole in the wall, exactly. So he's got hot dogs, he's got this crazy $50 steak sandwich, pit cooked steak that you can easily share with somebody else.
You got that
But
like
he's
on the
also
first
got
day, I think.
Yeah, but you've also like got these things that like you can just go there, spend $10, $15, eat some really good meat. I mean, take it with you, and that's it.
Yeah, that's perfect. The Hollywood area, because they have some old school places, but it seems like that area still needs to, like, that specific right by Hollywood and Highland and that, like, and what
Yeah,
spreads out around there. There's still some room to grow in that area, I think, food wise.
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't feel like that's there yet, but it'll get there, and maybe APL is what's going to kind of push it to a different level. I would hope so. I kind of hope so. So for prime rib, are there any old school places in Los Angeles you go to?
I mean, I've been to Lori's and it's good,
Yeah.
and it's like it's just like that old school service that you sort of that you
No, that's my go-to for prime rib. It just
yeah
since I was a child,
yeah
I get the Laurie cut rare or Diamond Jim Brady. It's
yeah
so damn good. Yeah, no, that's that. Okay, I just wanted to see if that was something, because a lot of people too might not know about that, and that's super old school, and the spinning saw.
yeah. It's like the only thing like on that quote unquote restaurant road that I think like endures and
Uh
continues
huh.
to be good, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was a
So like,
Benihana there that would have like it just
yeah,
seems
it's
like
kind of like the anchor of that, which just means that, for all the stereotypes about how everybody, in LA just like eats kale and drinks iced tea, it's like, no, that restaurant's
no.
been there for a long time and it's the one that thrived.
It seems like it's always busy, and tour buses come there full of people. It's a
Yeah.
big deal. Yeah, yeah. So what about French dip? Do you like French dip?
I do like French chip. I mean, it's funny because like, Philippe just had their 110th anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
all these food writers were like, tweeting and posting about like, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I'm gonna say right now, I have no idea how to pronounce this restaurant.
Neither do I.
Restaurant's really good. Just go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So for hot dog wise, is there a place? Because I just love meat, so I'm just gonna go to play. And if you're listening to this or watching this, I'm sure you love meat too. So hot dog wise, is there a place that you go to, like a go to or a local place? Where are you based? Are you based on the west side?
I live in the Valley. I live in Studio City.
Okay, okay.
I haven't found a great hot dog that I love. Although yesterday I was in like North Hollywood with Wen Tran from Story Kitchen, and there's a stand called La Vida Loca. It wasn't open yesterday. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be open. Honestly, we're not sure. And it literally is just a little stand, and outside it just says taco hot dog. So I'm very interested in.
On what street?
It's on Sherman Way,
Oh,
like
so it's up there in North Hollywood.
yeah, in North Hollywood, like near a lot of really really cool stuff. I mean, honestly, like I like the APL hot dog, but I haven't found like a classic hot dog that I've really liked. Like I'm not a big fan of Pink's. I'm not sure
No, neither
if
am I.
people, yeah, I'm not sure, if anybody really actually thinks Pink's is good.
Yeah, the people always ask me, like, why do they go? And I said, because there's a line.
So I haven't found a great hot dog in LA, but it's fine. There's great everything else.
Yeah, yeah, you could survive, and you could, if like worst comes to worst, you probably could get really good hot dogs shipped out here and cook them
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. And then obviously, like, for deli meat, I mean, like Langers and Wexlers, like they need no explanation, like old school, new school. It's like they just know what they're doing.
Yeah, hands down, you're always going to have a great meal. And Wexler's is really doing something special, like
Yeah.
across the board. Even their potato salad is just top notch.
Oh
There's
yeah.
fantastic food. And then otherwise, are there any other meat places that you can think of that we haven't covered?
Oh, so yeah. So this place isn't in LA, but this is a great drive. It's in the Central Coast, a little past Santa Barbara.
Okay.
It's called the Bear and Star. This to me might be the most interesting meat restaurant in America right now,
Okay.
and it's owned by the Fess Parker family. It's a chef who grew up in Texas, and I think like was raised by like fifth generation Texans, and it's attached. It's not it's not physically attached, but it's the family also owns a ranch where they're growing all their own California Wagyu. So it's like this entire
Oh, I
ecosystem.
didn't know that about that.
And it's just a guy from Texas, so he's like making chili. He's making like cowboy cut steaks. He's just, making deviled eggs. He's making a great burger. He's making meatloaf, but legitimately with this beef that you can only eat in this part of the Central Coast.
Ah,
And if you go there, and you should let me know if you go there. I'm sure they'd love to show you.
yeah, I'm gonna
They'll
go for
take you
sure.
to the ranch and show you like their mushroom caves and all their
Ah, are you kidding
basically
me?
like aquaponics and hydroponics and and all the fish, and they'll show you where they're just like foraging for wild watercress. It's just like this amazing family thing. And
That is cool.
and because I'm from Texas, the first time I went there, I was just like, I don't understand. This beef doesn't taste like Texas, but all these dishes are made the way that you would want them to be made
Oh,
in
interesting.
Texas. So it's sort of like like Flannery beef doesn't taste like anything. Like this is a very specific California Wagyu that they're breeding themselves. They've got like this one bull, the stud bull Bubba, who I think is responsible for more than half
That's awesome.
of the cattle. So yeah, you should go see that sometime.
The Bear and the Star. I think I follow them on Instagram, but I never knew their story and knew much about them. And I know a lot of people when they go like the Central Coast, that's Jackos. That's like their big place
Yeah.
that they go to, and it's like a
And the Baron Store, it's like, less than 2 years old, so it's just like it's this new thing. But I feel like it's a very important restaurant because to me, you go up there and it feels like Blue Hill Stone Barns, right?
wow.
And Blue Hill Stone Barns though is a place for really, like fancy elaborate tasting menus, you know, and this is a place that like has the same type of ecosystem as like, yo, we're gonna do it, but we're gonna serve you acorn pancakes and chorizo and burgers, and I'm just like, all right, I'm down.
Ah, I have a wedding this weekend. I like next weekend. I'm gonna
Yeah,
want to go out there. Oh my gosh, that alone has made this so important because I think that there's a lot of people that don't know about that, and a lot of
yeah,
people come
and
from
I
like,
think that like the restaurant's about to get a lot more attention. Discovery just filmed a documentary there, so it's like, yeah, I think it's on the cusp, but yeah, it is important because it's like, look, there are there's just a lot of things going on in the world right now. Like, and sort of like the easiest way for me to say this is like, so a couple days ago, I saw a clip from the Baron Star documentary,
okay,
and it was very inspiring because he's talking about the future of food. Like complete full disclosure, I'm hyping something that I'm in, like as one of the people at this dinner, but but he's like serving like, and I don't want to give it away, but he's serving like just all like these odd ingredients, and you're starting to realize, oh, this really could be the future of how people eat. Like literally 10 minutes after I watched that, I click on the Rolling Stone story that went viral just about how if everybody doesn't change everything, there will be no planet in
hmm
2050.
yeah, I saw that.
So it's like nobody's brain has space for all of this right now. And it's not about me or it's not about anybody else, but it's about everybody at the same time. And look, the Barron Star is a small part of what a lot of us hope will be the solution, but at the same time, like the small parts are really important right now.
Oh, without a doubt, that more so than ever. Is there somewhere to stay up like close by there?
Oh yeah, no, they're part of a hotel, so you
Oh,
can
they
stay
are.
there.
Oh, okay, okay, cool, cool.
And they're in Los Olivos, but there's all sorts of other wine country hotels there.
Los
And
Olivos is a
also,
nice little gem area. I like that.
yeah, and then in like 15 minutes you can go to Los Alamos, and there's a restaurant there called Bob's Well Bread, which is an amazing bakery that a lot of people, like it made Eater wrote about it as one of the restaurants that almost made like their essential California list, and people up there like think of it as their tartine.
Oh wow.
And then a very short walk from Bob's Well Bread is this new place called Bell's, where it's two per se alums, like who worked for Thomas
Yeah,
Keller,
wow.
just basically like move to the Central Coast and just have like their cool like all day cafe slash bistro. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
there's some things to do there if you want to eat. Yeah.
and that's not too far away from here, from Los Angeles
No,
at
no,
all.
no. It's like an easy day trip.
An easy day trip, and it's also something that'll kind of change the way you feel for at least a couple of days. Like it'll
Yeah.
cleanse your soul for a
Yeah, but
bit.
like when you go, like you really should like you can book a horseback ride or they'll drive you around the ranch and all that. It's like I mean that's the whole point of it.
Experience.
Oh, and the other thing that's so rad about like what they're doing is that like so this is a family that's in the wine business, that's in the beer business. So all the cattle, and this is one reason it tastes so different. It's finished with a mix of like the grape pomace from the winery and the spent grains from the brewery.
Oh,
So this is why it tastes very different, like wine country beef, because they're finishing it in a way that nobody, with their own ingredients that like nobody else has. It's pretty rad.
that is really rad. That's really amazing. I did. Oh my gosh, that's right. I could just take like that little clip and use that for something.
Yeah, no, no, no. Or like, yeah, you should just like get John Cox, the chef there,
Yeah,
to do one of these because he's just a super interesting guy. He's got so many more
yeah,
thoughts.
I'll reach out after because that's oh gosh, and that's what I'm trying to also do with this is not like I'm way into barbecue and way into meat,
Right.
but also I'm way into chefs and I'm way into to how people, especially chefs, create their world and create like their vision and do what they've done because I think that it's very inspiring for people. That's why I love Chef's Table so much. I think that's a great series
Yeah,
because
all these things overlap, right? Oh, and I didn't even tell you this. Like John Cox, these guys at they also have their own smokers at the Baron Star, so they do some barbecue. So you've got every reason to go there.
I have a million reasons to go now
Yeah.
too. Oh, what else have we missed? Is there anything else in Los Angeles, or are you going down south at all? Do you ever go to Orange County, San Diego?
I mean, I have gone down there. Like I haven't like found places that involve meat that like sort of inspire me the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like whatever Orange County. If you like look at Brad Johnson's list or whatever, there are obviously like a lot of steakhouses that sort of dominate the conversation there.
Hmm.
And they have an outpost of bourbon steak there now, but obviously people in LA can just go to the one in Glendale.
Yeah, yeah.
But the bourbon steak in Dana Point, like it's a little different. It's got a more elaborate menu. They've like launched like a hot shellfish platter that they don't have at some of the other Michael Mina restaurants. And that is a good day trip too if you just like want to like go hang out by the beach.
Hmm. And also too, if people like prime rib, there's Five Crowns, which is an offshoot of Laurie's and like the Tam O'Shanter. And I kind of like, even though the Tam O'Shanter is nothing close to Laurie's, it's still
Yeah, but
kind of a fun place to go
yeah, absolutely.
because
And then obviously, like again, like we're talking about things that aren't necessarily about meat, but really are. I mean, like you can go there during the day and to Costa Mesa and eat like tacos at Taco Maria, and
that's
there's
true.
and Burritos La Palma is in Santa Ana, and you can like whatever go to Disneyland and then go eat Burritos La Palma like all very easily in one day. I just recommended that to a chef friend actually.
That sounds like a great day.
Like, yeah, I mean, it is a great day, and it's funny because it's like there's been discussions about whether burritos are actually tacos or whatever, and it's like I don't care, they're delicious, but yeah. So if you're gonna ask me again, now that I've thought about like what my favorite tacos are, I mean, it's like my son's favorite thing, like in the world to eat, is the bean and cheese of Burritos La Palma, and I love the chicharron at Burritos La Palma, and I mean that's just a great burrito, small burrito, taco, whatever the hell you want to call it.
I kind of, because I love tacos so much, I forget about how much I do like burritos. And when you have a really good burrito, it's super satisfying.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of little hole no like in Los Angeles. I went to college in San Diego, so the Mexican scene, the Mexican food scene, is different than the Mexican
yeah,
food scene in Los
absolutely.
Angeles, and it has a whole its own flavor. But that's like a whole other thing, and it's probably something like if someone that was living in, there's a lot of places that probably have come and gone since I've been in San Diego, for
Yeah.
sure. But this is awesome, Andy. I've number one, like selfishly, I just wanted to meet you because I dig your
Well,
writing.
I'm flattered.
I dig your writing. I love it. I love what you're doing. I like your passion, and I like the places that you highlight because a lot of times people might not know about them, and I just appreciate all the insight. I think people really dig this, even though kind of like my brain, it's all over the place. But I think it was great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, I like the fact that these things are scattered. I mean, that's sort of like how I think and write. So that's the fun part about being in LA.
Exactly, and that this felt very LA. I think so for sure. Well, have a great day. Have a nice weekend, and thanks,
All right,
Andy.
thanks so much. I'm glad we did this.
I'm
Talk to
so
you again.
glad too. Thanks so much. Bye.
Okay.